right, I'm doing my vulnerability video. I did start a little bit early so I could do a video because I was thinking of Bridget. I came here tonight because I wanted to. You hear the music. I had so much fun. If people come out, it was great. It was great to inspire and see people be free. And then towards the end, the teenagers, there were a bunch of teenagers that got up and started dancing. Because one of the girls, her name's Kaylee, my daughter, Synchronicity Side, my daughter's name. And she was younger, and so all these young girls came up and danced up front. It was so great to see them happy and be free. And so I pulled back, and then I was like, you know what? I had my fun. I had my time. Let other people, you know. And I was like, I was tired. My body's like, I've had enough. It was fun, but I had enough. You know, and I'm glad I came here because I wanted to celebrate Bridget. I've been thinking about her, and you know, it's difficult sometimes coming here, but I feel good and I feel blessed. I actually got to talk about her. I was telling there's a couple I met, and I was telling her she was going through some issues with her dad as well, and everything, and we were just talking. So anyway, and I was saying how this place was meaningful and how I would dance, and I'd just look over and she'd be standing there like grinning and smiling at me, you know. And it's just it's sweet, you know. And I'm just, you know, I'm just so proud of her. I feel her love. I feel her spirit, you know, in me. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, it's just important to remember, like, there's no one way. There's no right or wrong way, like in how we view things, you know, how we decide to live our life, the choices we make. And that's why lately I've really pulled back and spent a lot of alone time. And I'm glad, because I realized that, and most of us are, and we don't even see it in the ways that we're just so codependent. We're just taught to rely on everything on the external of us to guide our lives and decisions we make, you know, because we're told that's what's right and what's supposed to work. But that might not work for you. We're all different. You know, our core value system shall be the same, because I do believe we're all, you know, like, you know, what Jesus taught. We're all perfect souls that have come down to, you know, kind of be born to forget to remember. That's the purpose. Like, and we have the ability, you know, we have free will. We do. But we make excuses because we're so codependent that we don't even realize that we make excuses, and then we're not learning our lessons, and so we're not elevating. We just keep repeating toxic cycles. I don't even say toxic, like the same unhealthy things. But the only way that we can get better is to learn those lessons and stop the behavior. So it's important to see that in every experience we have, and even, you know, because we all have different experiences. My experience is that I was widowed young. I was widowed at 25. I had 2 little kids with my first boyfriend, Ed, you know, I talk about. And we were together for 10 years. And that ultimately led me here, because 2 years after, I decided to sell everything and leave. I wanted to start my life over, and I did. And you know what? He helped me manifest a wonderful man. You know, I was married to him for 12 years, a wonderful stepdad, best stepdad. I couldn't have asked for a better example for my children. I really couldn't. And I give credit where credit's due. I really do. And I appreciate, and I am so grateful, you know, but it wasn't for me. As I come to awareness, I realized that I didn't agree with certain things, and I just really wasn't happy, because I wasn't happy with myself. So I knew that I needed to be alone. I knew in my heart, in my intuition, like what I had to do. And I did it. You know, I did it. I did it the best way I knew how. You know, like I said, I didn't always make the right decisions, but I always wrote my wrongs. So I wrote my wrongs, and I did the right thing. And then, you know, and that was over 10 years ago. And I'm grateful, and I'm glad, because I've been able to figure myself out. I've been able to really figure, you know, what makes me happy and who I am as a person, and not be afraid to stand up for myself. That's one thing I never have, and I can say I'm grateful. You know, being raised the way I was, I had a lot of conviction, and we were taught to stand up to what we believed in and what we felt was right. And I did feel that was right at the time. But as I come to awareness, because I always would pray, you know, for guidance and stuff, and I thought it was right, but I was confused because some stuff just didn't feel right in some things. Like I don't agree with certain things. I don't agree that it's okay to ever shun someone or just mistreat someone and just pretend like they don't exist. I don't agree with that. You don't get a positive result by shutting people out. Now there's a way you go about it. That doesn't mean allowing, accepting the behavior, but it means that you move out of love and you let people always let them know that you love them and you want them to be happy, right? And as long as someone's happy, it shouldn't matter what choices they make. Because if they're happy, they're going to make the right choices for them. And that's all that should matter. But yeah, I know for me, I spent half my life living my life for other people, of what I was told and what, and the things that I thought that I thought was right or what it should be, because people told me to. I didn't even know how to make a decision. I didn't have a voice. And I've worked really hard to get the point in my life because I've never gave up on myself. That's what I realized. I stayed consistent, even at times when I wanted to. I mean, I can't even tell you the times when I questioned things. I didn't know why, but I always knew, and I always would pray. Now my method of like how I received my signs, like I said, was different, because sometimes it would be through, when I would go to the Kingdom Hall and I would listen to talks, I would get information that way, or maybe an article would come out that I would read, and in our in our watchtower, I would, so there was a lot of good, and I'm grateful. And none of it's not good, but sometimes, like, as we come to awareness, we might realize that maybe some things just aren't for us anymore because we change, and it's okay to say that, and that's what I've learned how to do, and like learn how to set like boundaries for what I'll accept in my life. And even though I might have love for someone, and even though I wish the best for everyone, that doesn't mean that I'm going to have, I'm going to allow myself to be treated a certain way anymore, or allow someone to make excuses for things when I don't make excuses for myself. Like, why would you do that? So it's important, that we realize that. And that's different for everybody, because we're all different people. But your standards and the things that you allow are going to be different, and you have a right to say that. You have a right. And if someone, to me, how I look at it is, if someone can't respect that, and I stay, because I always try to be honest, and even though it's difficult, and there's been so many times where it's been hard. It's hard to do the right thing sometimes, especially when it'd be easy to give in, and it would be easy to just quit, or it'd be easy to just stop. But that's not always the answer. Like, we gotta, really living in faith sometimes that means we gotta listen to our soul, and we gotta know, what's right for us morally. And no matter what, just like following Jesus' example, he didn't let anyone on the external sway him. And he didn't remember things until he was older. He was raised the same as we are. That's what the example he was teaching. And how did he remember? He went alone. He spent time alone, and that's how he awakened, right? It's the same. We do the same. What they call a midlife crisis, that's our awakening, and we're supposed to spend time alone. And that's what I realized. Like, I'm seeing that. Like, we're too distracted, and these distractions are stopping us from listening to our soul and listening to what really makes us happy individually, because we're all different. But since I've been pulling back, and I've been praying for this. I've been praying for this guidance and for this awareness, because I want to be the best example I can be. I want to live my life the right way. I want to truly be happy. I want to treat others, the way they just, deserve to be treated. I want to think the best of others. I love everyone. And I believe that we all are like that, but when we allow distractions and we make excuses and we go through life doing that, and we get hit with these lessons, and we're not being self-aware, and we blame everything but us, you ain't gonna move forward. So I could see how they like kind of compare it to like a video game, because it kind of does make sense. Like, you have to get to extra levels. It's the same in life. You have to, we're faced with these tests, and as we face them, we'll open up and we get to more awareness. And then we learn our lesson from that. And then I also, as I've been really focusing on my spine health and really having a strong spine and focusing on my breath and all those things, it's really making a difference. Like, it's true, we are all connected. I'm noticing it, and it feels good. And it makes me feel good. It makes me feel special because Bridget believed in me. She did, and I'm so proud of her for her standing. And you know what? I'm proud of her for believing in herself. She believed in herself. And I look up to her. Like, she really was like my mentor. I believe that. Because she helped me have confidence in myself. She taught me how to stand up for myself in more ways when I needed to and speak, and that's not been easy. Anyone that knows me knows this has not been easy. But I didn't give up on myself, and we can't give up on ourselves. That's what I'm saying. We got to keep trying. It's cute. I like coming here because it's like a lot of people are visiting. They're vacationing, so everyone's like happy and they want to have fun, and it's just great. It's a great environment. It's nice. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. Maybe I'll do another one tomorrow. I don't know, but that's just kind of how I felt because I'm so proud. Like I just feel so blessed that I was able to get to know her, and I get to talk about her, and I get to like her legacy. All the things she taught me, I'm gonna see it through, and I'm gonna make sure I let those things shine in me because it's important. It's important. We all have a right to feel good about ourselves. We all have a right. We should be telling ourselves good things. We should be believing in ourselves. We should be putting ourselves first and leading by example. We should be wanting to treat ourselves kindly, and that means, like, if we can truly listen to our soul will guide us to do the right thing. But we're taught to look to so many external things, and then we worry about that, because people tell us that that's what we're supposed to do, and then we have so much anxiety and our nervous system gets so disrupted because of it. I realize that's why I do everything intuitive now. But you got to get to really know yourself, which is going to require learning how to slow down your life, learning how to spend time alone, learning not to have all that outside stimulation. And that's not easy, because when you've lived your life a certain way and you've been trained, we're trained a certain way, like you think there's something wrong with you if you don't experience that. And that's not true. We've got to learn how to navigate our own life. We've got to learn how to make our own personal decisions. We've got to learn how to guide our own life. That's why I keep everything private. I don't talk about a lot of things. I don't. Because those decisions are going to come from me and what feels right for me. But I'm getting to learn myself and how I feel, and how I feel is right. Just like how you feel is right. And no one should tell us how we feel, what our intentions are, what our motives are. We allow people to determine the type of person we are, and then we think that we're that way, and that's not true. That's not true. I remember, when I had to go in front of the elders because, I had done some wrongdoing, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And I faced it, and the first time they were gonna disfellowship me. And that was at a time when my mom had passed, not much before that. My son was sick, because at 14 my son had Crohn's disease, and he had a bowel surgery and then complications from that. So he spent a lot of time in the hospital, and I was dealing with that, and just issues in my marriage and stuff. But I did it, and then they were going to disfellowship me, and I didn't agree. And I said no, because I knew the type of person I was. I will stand up for myself. I fight for myself. And because I do know that, even though I was codependent in other ways, I to a point, you know what I'm saying? And I don't back down. So I did. I wrote to the New York, the headquarters, and I disputed that. And so I had to go to another hearing, and I had to sit in front of people, men, to try to determine whether I was worthy of forgiveness. And I remember, and I believed them at the time that was the right thing, and I thought I was doing the right thing, when they were deliberating or talking about it, right? I remember I was praying to God, and I was just crying because I knew what that would mean if I got disfellowshipped. It would mean they would kind of shun my children, and it's not in a bad way. In their heart they feel they're doing the right thing. They really do. They really do. But it really isn't. It's not effective, and I just don't agree. And if other people agree, well then, fine, be in that and do it. But I won't have it because I don't agree. No one should have a right to tell you how you feel. No one should have a right to determine whether or not you're worthy, or that's not no one's call to make. It's not. It's your life, and you have to answer for your decisions. You just should not. That is, and then I'm thinking we're all imperfect, so some of these people are doing horrible things, drinking in secret, or mistreating their wives, or whatever. I mean, come on, let's face it. That stuff goes on in every religion. It doesn't matter, in every place. And I remember, and I was like, God, you know my heart, like, I'm not a bad person. I knew I made mistakes, but I wasn't bad. I wasn't evil. And you know what? They reversed it, and they told me that they never do that. Very rarely, but they did. And I went back for a while, off and on, but then I ended up realizing it was just not for me, and that's when I left my marriage and I left the religion, But I set my husband free. I did the right thing, and I'm proud that I did. They didn't disfellowship me, but I just, I'm considered inactive, which, it's okay. I don't have anything. I really don't have anything negative to say, other than it's just stuff I don't agree, certain things I didn't agree with, but there's a lot of good in it, just like there's a lot of good in every religion, because they all have a belief, and we need to have a belief, because when I came to awareness, because that was my whole belief system most of my life, so when I came to awareness, I was so lost. Like, I was walking around, like, I felt so lost in life. I was scared. And that's when I was, off and on with my ex-boyfriend, and he was a complete opposite of, like, believing in God, and I was so confused, and I trusted him, and I'm grateful that he helped me to come to awareness in that. But then I felt like I was being drugged down the complete opposite direction, and I didn't like that energy. That was bad. That was like, no, it didn't feel good. And so I've been able to learn the balance of what worked for me. And so I take all the goodness, because I'm glad that I was raised with a value system. I'm glad that I was raised and taught to stand up for what I believed in, because we should stand up for ourselves. We should hold true to what we believe is right, and not allow other people, that's what Jesus was teaching. I mean, he went so far as to sacrifice his life, right? Because he knew that nothing on the external was going to be able to change how he felt on the inside. Nothing. And he was right. And so if we follow that example, we realize that no one can make us feel, say, do, and we do have the ability to create our own reality, but we gotta be aware of the things we're taking in through our senses, especially our mind, because that does, and it disrupts our nervous system, and it's a vicious cycle. But we can break free. And I feel like that's kind of like what I've done. And I'm happy. But I see the good in it all. Everything's good. If you feel that way, it's all in how you look at it. I could make it become a bad experience if I told myself that. If I just sat there and thought of all the negative and all the shit and all the badness. Yeah, that's how I would feel. But guess what? That's not how I'm choosing to look at it. And so the way I look at it creates my reality. It really does. I have wonderful experiences with people. I still talk to, if I see Jehovah's Witnesses on the street, I'll talk to them, or people I knew from there. They're kind to me. I'm kind to them. I appreciate them. I love them. I tell my children that. Looking back, I'm glad. We had good, wonderful experience. We went camping all the time. We would always go over, have each other over, for dinner. It was like a family. It really was. It really, really was, and I'm grateful because it was stability for my children, because they lost their dad young, and I had my issues. I didn't know how to cope, and I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I did at the time, right? But I was living in faith. I knew I wanted to move, and and it all worked out. So that's just how I live my life, and this is where it's led me here. And where it's gonna lead me next, I don't know. But I'm gonna go by how I feel, and I'm gonna listen to my soul. I'm gonna listen to my intuition. I'm gonna pray, keep praying, looking for the signs, and that's how I move my life forward. I don't know. It works for me. So, and it worked for you. Give it a try. Who knows?